Hey, it's Mike with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. It's Thursday, it's October 18th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And what looked early that maybe we might be in a range ends up being another volatile day with a big downtrend. So we pretty much took everything back. We traded up earlier and took most of it back today. This market continues to be very volatile, and so you got to be very careful to say the least. But once it starts trending, it usually trends pretty well. This is where it gets a little tricky for people when it shoots down real fast and shoots up real fast like it's doing here. But once we got going here, this is a really good downtrend with a correction and then another downtrend, and then we kind of corrected into the close there, as you can see. Um, Early on, you might have thought about trading. We're still making lower lows and lower highs here, even though the lower lows are getting much less, even though they're going much further lower. I mean, on a good trend, it just keeps going lower, makes lower lows and lower highs. And you can see these lower lows are getting, this one's just a little bit past this one. This one's even less past that one, and then it bounces. And that's pretty common what you'll see. But let me back out. We'll go through the trades. It is Thursday, so this will wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Fridays. You had to be a little patient today getting started. I'm going to back out where we can see there's just so much volatility and so many bars that you really have to back way out here to see it real well. So I'll back on out. You've seen the big picture now. Early on, we had this measured leg down here. And so we're looking for a possible measured move down comparable to that once we start heading lower here. So that comes into play. The 7 o'clock hour was right in here on this little rally, starting right in here. And there's a possibility here. I didn't like this one just simply because we weren't back to the trend line. However, you could really look at this like a double top. So it's a first entry, move back, second entry. And so if you looked at it that way, you might consider that one. I'll still make it green. I just didn't like it because it's not back to the trend line. But if you saw it as a failed second entry, it's not a failed second entry long because it went more than 4 ticks. But for all intents and purposes, this is going to act like a failed second entry long, most likely, especially if we're looking for a measured leg down. If we're going to get a measured leg, the main thing is there's plenty of room to get out before this bottom, these two lows here. So that's something to keep in mind. We finally get a lower high here. It kind of pulls back, breaks higher, fails, gives you a nice bearish bar. Relatively small one. Right before the open, we're probably going to run down. Notice you got a little trend line here. You got to close outside a new low, but there could be another trend line here. But bigger than that, or more important fact than that, is there's probably a larger two-tiered channel here, as you can see. You could have really drawn this right off the highs, right across there, and it still would have come down across these two. It would have basically given you the same thing that you see here. So if you drew it the other way, that's okay. But anyway, you get a lower high here, and then you actually push through and make a new low and get a little breakout pullback short right off that short-term trend line. And we're looking for that measured leg down. And so that's probably worth risking. I don't know if I would go short way down here below this bar. But when it broke higher here and turned down, I like having my sell stop already sitting there and going short right there. So it's, again, if you waited till here, it's a little risky because you're getting way away from the EMA and so forth. And it could bounce anytime. Even it could bounce just long enough to go lower because we don't have really a break of this. So you could get your break and then it go lower. But it just keeps on working down, and I don't see anything else here I like. It does bounce here. There's actually a failed second entry short here, but we're still a little ways from the EMA, not even back to the midlines. There's not much room in there because it could bounce up and turn down, but I just think it's a little risky going long right here. We do have the two measured legs in, and the fact that we didn't get through the EMA just leads me to say, hey, we better wait. And then, of course, we do push through and pull back, and we get a second entry, but look how negative or neutral that bar is. So I don't like going long there. I think you're better off to wait and see if we get a short. And of course we do. You get a break, it comes back right off that key entry point. And again, even if you'd have drawn it up here, you still come across here. So I like that short. There's a lower high here, bar's too bearish, and there's a failed second entry long here, but we just bounced off the midline. We do get a break here, so it could run down. There's probably enough room in there. It's real close. I didn't count it. That you might could take that one. So you might could argue for that one to be green. And just like the last few days, there's some trades in here that you could argue for. But why risk, a trade like that when we've already basically what's happened is this was our last of our high, and we're not really getting any real correction here, which that could mean it's weak. But at the same time, you could tick down here and bounce. It's not going to be long before it bounces and it comes back, and here's where your better entries are. Not down here where we've already moved 2 legs down real low. So, but this could be looked at as a failed second entry long. It is a failed second entry long, so no looking at it like that. That's what it is. We actually try to go higher once again there, but now you're trying to go short down here in the way down here to where you've almost got a double bottom. So again, just wait on the correction, and you don't want to be looking for any longs now because we've been trending down for a while. So it comes back here, a relatively bearish bar here with a big stem. It's got a little green there, but it opened here and traded up and then traded all the way back down. I like that one. You got a double bottom here, so a first entry, second entry. That's a second entry short. Your trend line hasn't played out, but when the volatility is this high and you're coming off a key entry point, you may not get another chance. So just take the trade. At that key entry point, I'm going to tell you to probably take it. And then we actually make a lower high here. So if you didn't get in there, get in right here. And if you were in here, you could add on here if you wanted to. And another nice trade down. And again, you get a failed second entry long, but again, it's right into a double bottom. It would have worked, but you got a break here, so it could have run down. You're getting in really close to that low and not far from this little double bar matching lows here. So again, you could probably argue for that to be at least green. But why risk a trade like that when you've got so many setups and so many good ones coming, and you know there's probably something coming again in a minute? And of course, we bounce here, you get a first entry, you come back, you get a second entry. But that's the first break of this big trend line, and there's too big a chance we're probably going to go short here. So I'm not crazy about getting long way up here. We do make a new high here, but you're kind of in this, and you're in this little trading range here, and you don't have any room to get out. And then you bounce again right off the trend line, but again, you're right at the highs of the range, and that's a very neutral to almost negative bar. I'm not going to enter on that, and of course it takes off, but it takes off without you. You just don't really get a good entry. You get a little pullback here right at this short-term trend line. But again, you're just kind of going sideways, and you got 4 bars stacked up, and not a good entry. And then you finally get a second entry here, and this one's really tempting. But again, it's just you're going sideways, and you got to get long right into that. It's almost a repeat pattern of that. So that may make you want to take it, but if you took that, you get burned. But notice what happens if you just wait and you're patient. It finally drops down. It gives you a bullish bar right there, with enough room to now get out, so it doesn't matter if it goes higher or not. So this is the safer entry. Notice that's a new high, first entry, and it goes lower. That's a second entry long, and that's a quick, easy little scalp, and then the bottom falls out. But notice you got the close outside, move to a new high, big bearish bar, a little ways away from the EMA. We're looking, with a downtrend as strong as this right here, we're going to probably retest that low, and look at the bottom fall out of it. Coming down, you get a first entry, you move up, you get a second entry. Again, you could have entered here, but you can easily see that trend line there, and if you draw it up here, we're not back to it yet. But even if you entered there, you could argue for that one because it's a failed second entry long. But we hadn't had much of a correction yet. I'll mark it, but I'd want to wait. But then it tries to go higher again and turns down right off that key entry point on a second entry short. Look at that low, first entry, second entry. That's where you go short. And again, the bottom falls out of it. You're moving down, you get a first entry right here, and that's the first break. We're not back to the EMA. It's just hard to know if it's going lower from right there, so I don't think you can enter. This is a double top, so you could look at this like a first entry long, a second entry long, but look how we're stacked up there. You got a doji or two in there, stems on both sides. You're a little ways away from the EMA, been away for a while, and we've also got a new low in place, as you can see there. So that one's a little bit risky, although again, you could argue for it, and it is at a key entry point. It's at this shorter term, but we've already got a break and a new low there as well. But you're probably going to trap some people trying to pick a bottom right there. So there's reasons to enter that and look at it go. And then we bounce again, and this is just a first entry long, but there's still 2 legs up, and it actually confirms this trend line. But I would probably wait just to see if we get a lower high here, because that's a really neutral bar. It's more bearish. You can't really see it there. Let me make it a little bigger. You can see it's a really neutral bar, but it's more bearish than it is bullish. So again, you could argue for that one, because you do have a close outside of this little short-term trend line and a new high. So I'll at least make it green. And it is at this secondary key entry point. Notice we started off with real steep, but it's too steep, and it just kind of angled out a little more. Still a little steep, but you know the market's weak right now. And of course we're moving down. You don't want to go short way down here. You want to wait for something back at the trend line. And then notice what happens. We actually come up, and you can tell we've got resistance here, and you get a little break higher in a bearish bar, and that's, notice that low, first entry, second entry. That's a second entry short. It's the first real close outside this trend line. I'm going to take that one. But then it jogs back again, and that's why a lot of times you want to wait on a lower high, and it actually turned up and then went out the other side. I'd have a sell stop going right there and just ride that on down. And you could add on here if you wanted, if you were already in here. And then we actually get another second entry short here, but there's not enough room, and look what happens. It bounces. That's why we like to have enough room. Runs up, you get another failed breakout. The fact that you got 2 semi-bearish bars, a little bit almost neutral, another tick on them, that'd be neutral. I'd wait on a lower high, and that comes right here, and it's back inside that range, bearish bar. Go short right there. And it kind of does a repeat of over here, and it jogs back again, goes higher and turns. It doesn't go out the other side, but that's a failed second entry long if it breaks lower. So if you got enough room here, take that one too. And so you could have doubled up right there. It bounces right where you think, and then it makes a higher low right here with a bullish bar. This is a trading range. Ride this back to the other side and look at it go. And this thing ends up taking off. And notice that low, there's a first entry, you move up. This is a second entry short, it fails, big bullish bar, go long right there. It actually jogs back, but that's too neutral to bearish. So I'm not going to jump back in there. We'll just watch that one. Now you got to close, a couple legs up. You could argue for that new high, but again, I'd wait on a lower low, or I'm sorry, a lower high. And there's your lower high right there. Still a long way away from the EMA. That's a, you know, you're going to have to take that one. Then it comes back, confirms that trend line, gives you a failed second entry long. Look at that bearish bar. It's spooky when it comes back on you here, but that's why I don't put you, that's why your stop goes above here. Notice that it was protected if it was up there. And I don't think I would jump back in there. If I was in here, I'd hang on, but I wouldn't add on right here. But then it pushes down, gives you, because this is going sideways now, and you got stems, and then it pulls back right at the key entry point again, gives you another bearish bar. Just go short right there, and off it goes again, and that would have been a nice runner. And this actually was a failed second entry long, because this is a double top first entry, so that would have been a failed second entry long. So you could consider going short right there, but it was right back into this range top, and it could have bounced again. We don't have a close of this though, and we haven't hit the low yet. So again, there's another one you could argue for that I didn't mark. just simply because there's too many good trades going on. Why risk something? Here we go again. You're bouncing off this low, but it just keeps going lower. But I'm probably not going to risk those. I'm just going to watch it. And then suddenly we get a second entry short. Notice that new low, first entry, second entry, right off the EMA, right off the trend line. A double. You got confluence there at a key entry point. Take that trade. You get a lower high here. I didn't mark that one because it's right back into this double bottom, but notice how it pushes down, comes back, gives you a breakout pullback short, but that's also a failed second entry long. Notice the new high, first entry, second entry, big bearish bar, right at the key entry point again. Take that trade. And down it goes. Then we come back. You get a first entry, second entry, and a double top with a big bearish bar. There's you another one to take. Another easy trade, but then it bounces. We didn't make it. Notice how we actually had a close outside here and a couple legs down, but if you could say, hey, maybe my angle's up. Plus we had an overshoot. So it's not surprising that we got a reversal, but you need to be real careful on a reversal here. You need a sure thing to go long. All that congestion right there and stems and stuff, you don't want to take that. Just wait. Notice how it pushes up and you get a couple legs up and it comes down. There's a first entry and there's actually a second entry there, but that trend line's still working. If this is a sure trend here, you've got an overshoot. So I'm at least going to wait for it to come back to the trend line and then it comes back. This one scares me a little bit because this is still working down, so it could have broke up. Again, you could argue for that one because it's right at the key entry point. And it really kind of confirms it, but I honestly think I wouldn't make that any more in green because that trend line right there scares me. That's a pretty good trend down, and it could just continue on. It's been bearish, so moves up, moving down first entry, you come down, you get a second entry, and definitely you got a confirmation of that trend line, second entry long. That's not a perfect bar by any means, but you may risk that one because it confirms that trend line. It's a second entry long. It's a higher low. And the better one is to wait right here. It comes back again and gives you a nice, more bullish bar right off there. It actually comes over here and makes another lower high, but that's not a very good bar. I mean, you would think we would take on off there. It does take on off now. I think people were waiting on a higher low. And a second entry here is what was happening, and technically that's a second entry. I don't like it because your stop still has to go down here, and there is a little bit of sideways action. It's an inside bar, but again, you could argue for it, so to at least be green. That would be where you enter above there, but your stop has to go below the swing low, so that's right here. And it finally takes off, comes back, and that just gets you into the 2 o'clock hour. You don't really get a setup there at the 2 o'clock hour. And that was it for today. I went through those a little quick again, but there's so many trades. I don't want to drag this thing out much more than 20 minutes every day, so I went through them quick. But you can see the two-tiered channel here working down. I need to adjust that maybe just a little. Coming down, and we had a break, moved to a new low, but then you got you got a steeper one and then a more narrow one here. It's really kind of like a spiking channel, and then we kind of bounced here, and you had another leg down, and you can see that channel real clear with the overshoot, and then we shot off to the upside. So, and that got us into the 2 o'clock hour. So it's been a really good week. Hopefully you made some money this week. I had somebody contact me and say they struggled a little bit today. I mean, there's a couple of really good trends. Maybe they were looking for it to go down here and they got caught with it rallying or whatever. I'm not sure, but I had one guy that's been telling me he did pretty good all week and then he struggled today. So it doesn't seem like it should have been any harder today, other than maybe right in here when it bounced. It looked like it was going to be kind of a range day. But that's why we use our trend lines and follow the price action and don't try to guess where it's going. But once it starts heading lower here, you know, like I said, you're looking for at least a measured leg down, and that would be measuring from here to here. And so at least look for that, and that puts you down to this level right here, and you can see that's where we bounced a little bit before we moved down. So you can't look at where this is pointing at, you just got to look at the level it reaches. So if you put that line on there, you can see we bounced right at that measured move. And that's why we bounce there, because people are looking at that stuff and they start buying there. They know they can probably get a scalp at a very minimum, and you could have done it twice before we went lower. Notice I don't have any buys there because I'm not going to play that game. I'm going to still use my trend lines and my channels and play the rules. But you got people that look for measured moves and automatically buy there because it works so often. And that's why we get a little bounce there, most likely. But notice how it continued on down. And, you know, a lot of those people are probably swing traders, and they find out they all loaded up here, and then they got to exit, and they, you know, then that just drives it down that much quicker. And that's, look how it drove down real fast and hard right there. So anyway, I hope you had a good week. It's been a really good week of trading overall. Lots of chances to make money, lots of chance to be, you can be patient in a market like this, and you don't have to wait for an hour or, you know, even 30 or 45 minutes. There's a trade every 10 or 15 minutes that comes along, if not sooner. So you can still be patient and get really good trades. That's the good thing about it. But if you can't be disciplined, which is the key to all of it, you're going to struggle. So you got to be disciplined, meaning don't force trades. Wait for the corrections. Don't be buying the lows or selling the highs, or rather buying the highs and selling the lows. Wait for the corrections. So we sell high and we buy low. And keep that in mind. I had it backwards there the first time, so don't get confused on that. But yeah, we sell high and we buy low, and you don't sell the lows way down. You know, you're looking to buy. You know, you look to buy on these corrections on the downtrend, and when you're going up, you look to, or actually, I'm sorry, you look to sell on the corrections on the downtrends, and when you're trending up, you look to buy on the corrections with the uptrend. So if you try to do it backwards, you're going to lose, and that's what most people do. They want to wait and see it moving down, so they think when it's way down here, this is where I'm selling, and as soon as they sell, it bounces. And then they decide, well, I better reverse, and they reverse, and then it goes right where they thought it was going to go. That's what happens to inexperienced traders that use common sense, because common sense says wait till you see it going lower and then jump on. But the way you got to do it is to wait on the correction when it's going lower, and that goes against common sense. So if you try to use your common sense, you're going to struggle at trading. So throw that out the window and follow the rules as we teach them, and you'll be a whole lot better off. But I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it Monday. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.